All right, good afternoon, everyone. We'll get the committee of the whole meeting started here. Call to order. I will now call the committee of the whole meeting to order at 5 p.m. on September the 20th. Approval of the agenda. In addition to the agenda, the recommendation reads that the agenda be amended to add an additional closed session item under open meeting exemption B of section 239, section 2 of the Municipal Act 2001 regarding a private property matter, and that the agenda be approved as amended. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Winters, Councilor Day. Any discussion? Seeing any discussion, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. Land acknowledgement statement. We acknowledge with respect the history, spirituality, and culture of the Anishinaabe, the people of the Three Fires known as Ojibwe, Odawa, and the Potawatomi Nation, who have inhabited this land from time immemorial. And further give thanks to the Chippewas of Saugeen and the Chippewas of Nawash, now known as the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation, as the traditional keepers of this land. We also recognize the Métis and Inuit, whose ancestors shared these lands and these waters. May we all, as treaty people, live with respect on the land and live in peace and friendship with all diverse peoples. Declaration of pecuniary interest. Any declaration of pecuniary interest? Not seeing any. You can declare at any time. Announcements. Does any member wish to make an announcement? Not seeing one. I do have one. I will read here. On behalf of staff and council, we send our deepest sympathy to our Mayor, Sue Carleton, on the loss of her mother. Sue, our thoughts are with you. Moving on with the agenda. Public hearings. Yes, Councilor Day.
Just to go back one step, it's easy to forget. Is there anyone who would like to read the land acknowledgement next week?
It's a good call. Thank you for that. Anyone takers on the land acknowledgement for next week? See any hands up? Okay, well, Councilor Day will do the acknowledgement for next week. Thank you for pointing that out. All right, on to public hearings. That the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole be recessed to hold a public hearing for zoning bylaw amendment application Z0523 for the property located at 217 Shepherd Lake Road for Larry and Darlene Miller. Need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Winters. Councilor Day. Discussion on that piece before I read recommendation later. Any discussion? I'll call the vote. All those in favor? Oh, yep. Councilor Coburn.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are we voting? Are we already voting to approve? Or are we just approving that it's on the floor for discussion as a public meeting?
Just going into discussion here. We're going to go to the go to the recommendation here shortly. Just looking for confirmation to move forward. We're good. All right. I'll call the vote again one more time. All those in favor? Thank you. All right. Moving into D 2023-47 zone or Z0523 for Miller. Meeting has been called to consider zoning bylaw amendment application Z0523 for the property legally described as Part Lot 34 and 35 Concession 1 NCD couple. Madam Clerk, please advise the method by which notice of the public meeting was given.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Notice of this public meeting was given by ordinary mail to all property owners within 120 meters, 400 feet of the subject property by email to all the prescribed bodies on August 28th, 2023, posted at the subject property and posted on the Township of Georgian Bluffs website. If a person or public body does not make oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Georgian Bluffs before the proposed zoning bylaw is adopted or passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Township of Georgian Bluffs to a local planning appeal tribunal. The person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the local planning appeal tribunal unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party.
Thank you, Madam Acting Clerk. Planner, please provide a review of the application.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. The subject applications proposes actually a lot line adjustment, subsequent lot addition to the property known as 217 Shepherd Lake Road. The applicant proposes to sever a 2.71 hectare parcel containing an existing single detached dwelling, workshop, a shed, a pool shed, and a well and septic system, while merging the vacant 26.57 hectares retained parcel with adjacent lot to the west, also owned by the applicants. The reason behind the application is for estate planning and no new lot being proposed. The original application received provisional consent from the Township's Committee of Adjustment on August 15th, 2023, subject to a number of conditions. And one of those conditions included amendment to the zoning bylaw. So this amendment is being proposed to address the conditions by removing the requirement for a lot front onto a public road and adding a holding symbol to the zoning subject plans to ensure that no new building permit is issued for future development site for an archaeological assessment is conducted. No other relief to the bylaw is being requested. So far, as a result of the circulation, we did receive comments from the County of Grey Planning and Development Services on September 8th. They noted that providing their comment related severance application were addressed, that county planning staff had no further concerns with the subject application.
Thank you for that. No members of the public registered with the clerk to provide comments in support or in opposition of the application. Does any council have any questions regarding the proposed application? Councilor Colburn.
Thank you, Chair Pringle. And through you to our planner, I'm not sure if there's something going wrong on with Michael, your microphone system, but you are cutting in and out a little bit. It was difficult to hear you here in the virtual world. So I apologize if I'm asking something that you have already addressed. I just wanted to note that one of the recommendations from the Committee of Adjustment was that the Saugeen Ojibwe First Nations were consulted. And I just didn't see in the report that that step had been taken. So I'm wondering, does that still apply, or has that been addressed, or what is that recommendation part of what we're discussing here tonight, I guess is what I'm asking. Thank you.
Through you to Deputy Pringle, to Councillor Colburn, and my apologies for not including that in the report. That's a pretty important piece that we should put in here. We through the agent for the proponent, discussions did happen with the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation and Mr. Davidson, and I was actually advised by Mr. Davidson after that the archaeologist for the Saugeen Ojibwe Nation did look at the parcel and felt that given the parcel has already been developed, that the holding provision is appropriate in this instance, as the site's been developed, and would really only trigger a need for further archaeological assessment if new structures were proposed on the property. As such, we're putting the holding provision in the bylaw that triggers the archaeological assessment if new structures are being proposed.
Thanks. Does that answer your question, Councilor Colburn?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any other questions? Any further questions? Not seeing any arise. All right. Oh, Councilor Day.
Just to help me interpret the map accurately, I'm looking at the notice of complete application and public hearing. So through the deputy mayor to our planner, There's a couple short forms on the map. The subject lands are surrounded by red dotted lines, I see, and there's RU times H, so that would be the H for holding. And then the EP, is that environmental protection?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor, to Councillor Day. Yes, the RUXH is the RU, which is short form for rural. The X would be the actual bylaw section number, and H is the holding provision. The EP is environmental protection.
We were talking in at Grace Level Conservation Authority yesterday about how sometimes bodies aren't, if they have no comment, sometimes they're not reporting back. So I just wanted to confirm this with this environmental protection area. Well, I guess that would be natural heritage features, so there's no comments on it, and we still don't have a mechanism for those natural heritage comments. Is that you at the moment who's doing those for Georgian Bluffs? I think we've talked about Grey County, and I might be getting into unresolved issues of that, but we are approving things, so it would be good to get an update. Thank you.
Through Deputy Mayor Pringle to Councillor Day, and actually for Soul's information as well. Just earlier this week, we met as local planners with the county planners, and were introduced to the new heritage planners, and national heritage planners, that's what we call them, ecological planners that work now for the county. And the county is just working through a system where we're again starting to get natural heritage comments back from those planners. They kind of will embed their comments in normal comment procedures that we see from the county planning department on applications. So in this instance, for this application, I actually did have a discussion with county planners on this, and they were able to kind of look into that a little bit further for this application, and those comments fell through the comments that we received for the severance for this proposal.
Thank you for that. That answered your question. Okay, very good. All right, any further questions? Don't see any. All right, I'll now call for a vote on this motion on the decision that report DEV 2023.47 Z05-23 Miller Public Meeting be received for information, and that the amendment to the Township Zoning Bylaw 2020-020 for the lands located at 217 Shepherd Lake Road, being part lots 34 through 45, concession 1 NCD Keppel, as in R306602 T/W R306602 Jordan Bluffs be approved. Need a mover and a seconder. Mr. Winters. Mr. Day. Any discussion? None. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? It's carried. All right. Good to do. I will now call for an adjournment of this hearing. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Colburn, Councillor Day. I'll call the vote. All those in favor? This public hearing is now adjourned. Thank you. All right, on to delegations, public question period. 6.1, items on the agenda. Any person who wishes to appear before council regarding an item on the agenda shall make written application to the clerk by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting. To register, www.georgianbluffs.ca/delegations, or call the clerk's office at 519-376-2729, extension 603. 6.2, items not on the agenda. Any person who wishes to appear before council regarding an item on the agenda or not on the agenda, you make a written application to the clerk by the Thursday preceding the meeting they wish to speak at. To register, www.georgianbluffs.ca/delegations, or call the clerk's office at 519-376-2729, extension 603. 6.2.1, Mark Swanson, Francis Drive East, beyond Spencer Avenue. Welcome, Mark, and we have 15 minutes.
Thank you. You can hear me satisfactorily? My name's Mark Swanson. I'm a Georgian Bluffs taxpayer, and I'm here representing 7 households, all of which are fire sign 256 through 296. And those are the residences beyond Spencer Avenue at Francis Drive, which go up the hill right to the end. Why am I here? Our group, I'll call it, thinks that the Georgian Bluffs treatment, particular to the road being declared unassumed, that is our portion of the road, is prejudicial to us as taxpayers, and it causes burden to these households because Georgian Bluffs declared our portion of Francis Drive unassumed. We're responsible for road maintenance, gravel, all aspects, snow removal, etc. As honestly they had been in past, but by way of background, if you look at the agreement made between Georgian Bluffs and the site plan agreement approved in June of 2016 between Georgian Bluffs and the Michael Smart and James McKinnon and the Number Company. Upon completion and satisfaction of the terms of that agreement, Georgian Bluffs assumed the roads of what do you got here? Big Rock Road, Alice Street, Spencer Ave, and Francis Drive. All of Francis Drive from concession 14 on through to the end of Francis Drive. And part of that assumption responsibility in our assessment or review includes, road graveling, grading, roadside curb, scrub and tree removal, winter snow removal, sanding, just general road maintenance in keeping with safety and road conditions required by a municipality or the Municipal Act. Subsequent to Georgian Bluffs road assumption of Big Rock Road, Allison, Spencer, and Francis Drive, as I noted, Georgian Bluff declared our small portion as unassumed. And for the purposes of maintenance, snow removal, overall service, this road status change represents to us a withdrawal of service, which all other residents on the assumed roads receive in consideration for their taxes. We get no road repair, no winter snow removal, no gravel, no grading, no sanding, no reduction to our taxes because we don't receive any of these services. And the beneficiaries of the assumption, of course, all do receive these benefits, such as, plowing and road grading and snow removal, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't see that as equitable from our perspective. But what I want to make clear here is we're not asking Georgian Bluffs to reassume our portion of Francis Drive. We understand the logic of Francis Drive for frankly wanting not to assume that portion of the road, given you're going through a swamp, given environmental issues, and given the cost that would be involved to bring it up to municipal specs. We get it, but we think that we should get some consideration and courtesy given the amount of taxes we pay on that hill, which exceeds $37,000 amongst 7 households. The only thing we get is garbage and recycling. We pay for the garbage bags, but anyway. So I'm here to, express those concerns, but also I want to suggest that respectfully, that an equitable solution to this could be as simple as Georgian Bluff supplying a courtesy tandem truckload of gravel a couple of times a year, which the residents, our fire sign residents, would disperse on the road to correct potholes or any road type maintenance. A courtesy triaxle once a year of gravel, 7/8 crushed, to spread on the road once a year would be enormously helpful. And a grading, even just once a year. Graders have been up that road in years past, got turned around, able to come out, because that's often the excuse for not looking after, you know, our road. Of course, Georgians Bluff's contractor, garbage and recycling, they're up and down that road every week. So they're able to get turned around. So the access isn't really, in our view, a reasonable argument. Trucks can get up back and forth. So we're just, you know, I guess, for those that might be concerned that these acts of courtesy, these small acts of courtesy, would present a precedent or an argument for future assumption. We don't really agree. If any of you know Rusty Russell, he's a QC from really he's passed, but he wrote what lawyers deemed to be the definitive book on roads. And there were two cases. There's the town of Lincoln and the Ontario Court of Appeal reversal on the Scott versus North Bay decision. And the court was seeming to suggest that minor acts of repairs or maintenance or grading by a municipality at infrequent or irregular intervals are trivial, informal, and do not demonstrate a municipal intent to assume a road, nor the burden of assumption. Some solicitors may argue that until we're all on the ground, but you know, these are cases which have been adjudicated. Finally, another worthy consideration is grants. Down by Grand Bend, for example, Blue Water Township, they're unassuming roads. They have a grant program to the associations or homeowners associations of these unassuming roads, which they own, which covers, not entirely, but covers gravel, covers partial snow removal, that sort of thing. I mean, that's the kind of thing that, you know, we think Georgian Bluffs should consider when you look at the taxes we pay. We have a real problem with our hill because when it rains, the hill gets washed out because of the topography. Well, you know, we have to organize to get the gravel, which is fine, but pay for it. And we have to do all the maintenance. Again, you know, to harp on the tax issue and taxes we pay, we figure, well, that's not equitable. So we just want that in front of you to consume and think about. We think, you know, a few loads of gravel and grading and that sort of thing would go a long way to solving the problem. Like I said, we're not here asking Georgian Bluffs to reassume the road. It's not going to happen anyway. And frankly, under the circumstances of that road, we get it. So that's really, we just want it understood. We're not happy about what we get for our tax, which is basically, from our standpoint, nothing. And at least if you're on an assumed road, on the same road we live on, 100 yards up the road, you do get grading, graveling, maintenance, all the benefits that we don't get just because Georgian Bluffs decided our portion only of the road should be unassumed. That's it. I'll leave it with you.
Thanks, Mark, for giving us the report on that there too, and clarity on your side of things and on what you notice every day. So appreciate you coming in today and giving us that piece of it. And nothing we do here further. We want to bring with some motion if somebody wants to bring it.
Great presentation, Mark. And Mark and I have had some conversations over the last year or so. and he stayed true to his word, and I appreciate that they don't want to assume they want some help. And I want to say that I support that, and I think we need to figure out how to, as a council, to move forward with that. There are circumstances already set in this municipality that have that situation. Township of Sarawak back in the day, I want to pronounce it correctly, I think it's Ocnean Drive, at Balmy Beach there, Indian River. Township of Sarawak actually did a bylaw that said they would offer courtesy grading and sanding when necessary. So the standards been set in the municipality, and I think we have a lot of these situations that need to be addressed. It's a small ask, I think, in the bigger part of things, but I think we owe it to our residents to make sure that, you know, emergency vehicles are able to get in and out of their places when necessary, that we make sure that the road is passable if necessary. But I want to see how we can move that forward, and I'd like to put a motion forward that we bring back a staff report and see how we can help this. This is not a unique situation. This is not a one-off, right? There are probably a dozen situations in the municipality like this.
Yeah, go ahead, then.
Through you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor Pringle, sorry, to Councillor Winters. Following on from some of the conversations we've had earlier this year, it is my intent to bring back through the budget process this year a proposal to comprehensively review our road standards to address both better definition of the classes of road that we carry and what we can expect, or what taxpayers and residents can expect from the township in terms of maintenance standards associated with those roadways. Given that this or similar issues to this have arisen a number of times, addressing what we might be able to provide beyond the assumed road network through that policy. So I don't know if Councillor Winters would be satisfied with the commitment to bring this back already, rather than a notice of motion of me bringing that back in a written report. But yes, this is something which is on the work plan for 2024 at this point in my mind, something which addresses a number of different priorities that have come up over the last few months. So definitely on the list. So I don't know if that satisfies the question at this point.
Councillor.
It partially satisfies it. I don't want it to get lost in the budget process as well. I think we need to see kind of a report looking at all the situations in the municipality. Coming back saying these are the unassumed roads, these are the assumed. I think council needs to be totally aware of all the situations and not get it lost in a budget.
So to you again, Deputy Mayor Pringle. So the purpose for bringing it back to the budget, we've actually started some of that background work. I'm working with the county GIS staff on trying to pull together whatever we have at this point in time. Part of this reason it may come back through the budget process is if there is an implication for resourcing in 2024. That would be required to push this past that finishing post, but very much something we have started working on, and I don't believe is a significant pressure, but we are working.
Councillor Colburn.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Pringle. And I think Councillor Winters articulated what I intended to as well, and I was going to bring forward a similar motion. And so in light of that, I would have seconded the motion, but I do accept our CAO's indication that we'll be getting a more fulsome report coming forward that includes all of the roads that we've talked about that are in question, so that we're dealing with it as a package and not a one-off kind of deal. The only thing I would just add is that in support of Councillor Winter, I would like to see it be as timely as possible. So if we could agree on some kind of timeline, I don't know, Niall, if that's something that can be done by January or by the end of January. We'd still have time before the final approval of the budget. Does that timeline seem reasonable? Again, like Councillor Winters, I just don't want it to get lost in the shuffle.
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, to Councillor Coburn, that would certainly be a much more aggressive timeline than I had in the back of my mind. I could probably commit to Q1 of next year. I think being more aggressive than that might be optimistic given where we're at. So that might mean that we would miss this year's budget cycle for any cost implications back to residents. But staff can certainly build that into the back of their minds as we're going through the budget process. So the reason for the delay for the budget process wasn't really to implement the policy. It was if there was work needed to move that policy further forward. But let me take that back to the staff team and see what I can chew over with them.
Thanks for that. Councillor Colburn.
And thank you, Niall. I didn't mean to impose an impossible deadline. I know that you have many priorities. So I'm okay with certainly being flexible given the other demands on staff right now. Thank you.
Okay, Councillor Shouldice.
Thank you, Chair Pringle. I'm just going to make this as quick as possible because Councillor Colburn kind of said exactly what I was also thinking. Just wanted to say that I would show support to Councillor Winters in seconding that motion, but I appreciate that Niall as well as helping to address talking about this. I don't think they're asking for all that much. They're not asking for municipality assumption of the road. They're asking for a little bit of help, a little bit of gravel. Truckload of gravel could go a long way. So I would second Councillor Winters' motion there.
Thanks for that, Isaac, or Councillor Shouldice. Councillor Winters.
Just quickly, and I recognize the acting CEO's position and everything else, but we head into budget deliberations here early this fall or later this fall. I'd like to see a line item in there as a budget enhancement, even before the report comes through. I feel more comfortable with that.
So through you, Mayor Pringle, Deputy Mayor Pringle, to Councillor Winters, that we can certainly do. So the budget process this year will be different to past budget processes, but we have a complete ability for me to deliver exactly what you have just asked for, to provide council the opportunity to populate the budget with that number if they so desire.
Thank you. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I just wanted to thank the other councillors for bringing forward some great ideas, and I would support that motion as well. And I wanted to reinforce the message that I'm interested in hearing about all the unassigned roads in Georgian Bluffs. A load of gravel is one thing. A load of gravel on all the unassigned roads is another thing. So I'm very happy you're here tonight to bring this important concern forward. And I just like all the information before we make a decision. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Any further questions? Yes, I concur.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, I just want to, for the record, it sounded like we had a mover and a seconder on the motion. So I just wanted to clarify there is or isn't a motion on the floor that needs to be voted on.
So I'm going to send to the acting CEO here.
My initial response to Councillor Winters was to see whether or not that motion would be tabled or not. But with the bearing of the conversation, I do believe it might have evolved. And so without wanting to put words into anyone's mouth, I wonder if the direction is that an allowance is set aside in the 2024 budget to ensure that a subsequent policy has budget associated to it or something along those sorts of lines. I don't know whether that would satisfy.
That would satisfy.
Okay, perfect. So to add to that, I got a question for the acting CEO and to Mark also. Is there a possibility we get these folks a courtesy grade in the next couple of weeks?
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, to members of council and indeed to the residents in the room and residents that might be tuning in online. The reason I hesitate in my answer there is because I am aware of another issue which I can't discuss in open session, which council may wish to take into consideration before providing that direction. So if that is the direction that council would like to provide at this point in time, we will need to go into closed session.
So I would like to leave it as, Councillor Colburn.
Yeah, so I guess similar to what Niall has said, Chair Pringle, I don't know that while I'd like to offer that to the residents that are here in the chambers today, we have also told other folks who have come here with a similar ask that we would be taking it away and looking at the issue from a more comprehensive and fulsome manner, and they've had to wait, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not quite sure how fair it would be to offer up that at this stage of the game when we haven't taken that approach to others in the past.
Thank you for that. I tried. So anyway, I think moving forward, we have our where we want to go and how we want to tackle this. So I think we'll leave it at that. Thank you, Mark, for your presentation today and coming in. And we'll work on it. So thank you. All right. Look, what am I voting on? Oh, sorry. All right. I'm going to call the vote and the motion to bring this forward to an agenda meeting. All those in favor? Okay, that is carried. Thank you. You're welcome. All right. Correspondence 7.1 Inter-Township Firefighters Breakfast Request. Does any member wish to comment? Mr. Day.
I know the Oxenden community appreciated the donation of the super solid carry bags and I believe some mugs. I don't know how popular those would be in a silent auction, but if there were a way of supporting the firefighters breakfast, I would be interested in seeing it happen.
No, for sure. And as a note here, I should read the note first maybe. Donations are being collected by the Chamber of Commerce with the ITFD, and a donation box will be placed at the Township Admin Office for any person who wants to donate. So that'll be for the upcoming toy drive. So that will be happening too again this year. Councillor Scholz.
Sorry, just one quick question. I was reading through the agenda and on that page in the agenda, I'm just wondering, can you guys confirm the time in which that breakfast occurs at? I wasn't sure. I didn't see a time in the agenda.
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, yes, I can confirm a time for the firefighters breakfast. It is between 8 and 12 on Sunday, October the 1st. And so that's when the firefighters breakfast is. And I know I'm speaking to Chief Gannow's this afternoon. The chief would be delighted to see any member of council who is able to attend coming along.
Thank you for that.
Thanks, Noel.
All right, any further discussion? All right, we'll move on to staff reports. Development and infrastructure. DER 8.1.1, DEV 2023-48, no demand for service agreement. Youngs Drive road allowance. Recommendation reads that staff report DEV 2023-48, no demand for service agreement, Youngs Drive road allowance be received for information, and that council authorized the mayor and clerk to enter into a no demand for service agreement with Landmark Design Limited, CO Gary Nordman, for access onto the Youngs Drive road allowance, being the road allowance between part lot 1 half-mile strip and part lot 11 half-mile strip, Derby Township, and the abutting portion of the original road allowance between Derby Township and the city of Owen Sound. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Scholz, Councillor Day, and I'll turn this over to the senior planner for discussion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. So I'll be brief. The Nordmans actually, who are the president of Gary is president of Landmark Design Limited. The Nordmans actually own two parcels that are somewhat interconnected but divided by the original townships between Derby Township and Sound. So the main parcel is actually in Owen Sound. That's where they wish to build residence on. To get there, they need to come off of Railroad 17B, partially onto their property that's actually in the township of Georgian Bluffs. But they need to cross into the Youngs Drive road allowance, an extension of Youngs Drive, the original road allowance mentioned above. Given the topography in that area, there's a steep valley and stable slopes. So to get to their main parcel, they need to encroach upon the road allowance. So typically in this sort of a situation, the township has a policy in place where we can put forward a no demand service agreement with Nordmans to allow access and improvements for their laneway essentially on Youngs Road road allowance and excluding any responsibility from the township to maintain that road allowance for any of their works that they've constructed on property. Once they get to the Owen Sound side of the line, they'll have to enter into a similar agreement with Owen Sound to actually cross that, it's a 33-foot section of that original road allowance that separates also River Township. So this agreement speaks to the this report speaks to the no demand service agreement and Western Council's approval as such, and attached to the agreement is a sample or draft of the service agreement.
Thanks for that. Any questions from council? Councilor Colburn?
Thank you, Chair Pringle, and with apologies, I'm not sure what's going on with Michael's microphone, but again, sort of the volume fading in and out for me, so I apologize if I ask a question that he's already addressed. So I'm assuming that this is not atypical. I'm curious to know if we have how many approximately no service agreements we have within our municipality, and if this is a sort of a typical thing that's done. That's my first question. My second question is, so is there any risk in us going ahead and approving our section to be no demand for service agreement if Owen Sound does not? So should ours be contingent upon that as well? And then finally, I would just like to know if there's anything about our particular road allowance in that area that would make travel along that road allowance challenging or difficult. Thank you.
CEO.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, so I can perhaps take a run at a few of these ones. This is certainly a very atypical application. It's very rare we're dealing with development in a neighbouring municipality where the only access to that development is through our municipality. So this is definitely atypical. Having said that, we do have a number of no demand for service agreements across the township. That is not that I would like to sound like a broken record, but that will be part of the policy context I hope to bring back around addressing roads, as mentioned earlier on this evening, and looking at where, how, and when no demand for service agreements would be entered into. In this particular instance, Owen Sound has already provided in principle support for the development of the lot that's in Owen Sound, and so whilst they haven't necessarily indicated their discussion around the road allowance, seeing as they have provided in principle support for the eventual development, it would be logical for them to provide a similar access over the road allowance, which is required in Owen Sound in order to access this lot. Youngs Drive is a short section of dead-ended right of way. There would be no reason for the township, as the principal planner and I have looked at, for the township to seek to open this at any point in time. However, the no demand for service agreement wouldn't limit us from doing so if such a need arose at this point in time either. So I think did that check off all three?
Throw. Council Winters.
It is a very unique one, but my concern, and I hope we can address it, and no demand for service, is that there is no garbage at all. Because it's a city property with a Georgian Bluffs address. You can see, I don't think we should be paying for garbage collection for a city property we're not collecting taxes off of. I think we just need to make sure that one's clear.
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, to Councillor Winters. It's a really interesting point that has just been made. I think it's in there. Oh, okay. We normally do through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, so it would normally be in there. We might have to just check the wording that it doesn't just say that we're not going to provide it on that road allowance, and that it doesn't mean that he can bring it to the curb or the owner can bring it to the curb. You are right, they're paying taxes to Owen Sound, not to the township, for the development, so. We should probably, as that would be a non-standard clause, that would be an amendment that I would look to council to provide some direction and support for. And I might phrase it as that municipal services do not be provided to this property. So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, we're just reading the agreement. There is a bullet point in there, but I believe that the intent of that bullet point is to say that we would not enter onto that section to provide those services. This one is as I say, a unique situation. We will have to adjust that paragraph to say that we will not only not enter onto that road allowance to provide those services, but we will not provide those services at the curb as well. And so I think a point of clarity to meet the point that Councillor Winters has raised, a direction from council would be appreciated.
Okay, I'm looking at the acting clerk here to just need hopefully Rick to bring an amendment through, and then we'll look first and second.
Through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, yes, we could amend the motion that's on the floor to include that direction to staff as a line, and you would need a mover and a seconder for that amendment.
Okay, Council Winters, would you like to bring that forward?
I'd like to bring that forward. I will move that.
Okay, I need a seconder. Councillor Schuldice. All right. Thank you. Clear? No? Oh, yes, got a vote. Yeah. Gonna call the vote on that. All those for the amendment to the motion. Is carried. And now we need a vote on the motion as amended. Dr. Porter, or person second. I got him. Okay, so I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. All right, thank you. Community and environmental services. Yes.
There's just a few typos.
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, Councillor Day, we'll look at it again, pick up some typos, but if you have an opportunity to highlight any that you find particularly pertinent, please feel free to pass.
Thank you for that. All right, 8.2 Community Environmental Services. 8.2.1 CES 2023-21 Disposal of Surplus Scrap Metal and Machinery. Recommendation reads, whereas the Township of Georgian Bluffs is the sole owner of the various equipment and machinery which it received and stored during the preparation and presentation of the proposal to the BioGrid Board of Management to retrofit the facility to accept source separated organics, and whereas the BioGrid Board of Management subsequently rejected the proposal in 2019, and as agreed in advance, all equipment and machinery were left with the township. Now therefore, the Committee of the Whole hereby recommends that the council that this equipment and machinery be declared surplus to the needs of the township, and that staff be directed to release a request for proposal to be distributed to the companies that specialize in removal and recycling of metal that provide bids on a purchase of these materials. I need a mover and a seconder to put that on the floor. Councillor Coburn, Councillor Winters, Niall, would you like to discuss nothing on this?
To you, Deputy Mayor Pringle. Yeah, very, very quick opening comments. I believe that this has already been discussed earlier this year. We are carrying quite a volume of potentially valuable scrap metal items. They're beyond the capacity of the team here to be able to deal with in the way that we would normally deal with bins of scrap metal that we accumulate through the course of operations. And there could be substantial value with some of those items. And so the proposal is that we basically seek for a purchaser of that items who is able to both purchase them from us and recover them from the various properties that we have stored in at this point in time.
Great. So any further discussion? Councillor Coburn?
I don't know that I have any issue with the actual recommendation or motion, but I guess I'm wondering if, so this would have been a decision of the board, the biodigester board, to allow this company to bring the materials in, the equipment in, and it looks as though we, Georgian Bluffs, paid for the cost of the crane used to bring it in. So I guess my first question, and then I'll have some follow-up questions possibly, is did our partner in the biodigester, Chatsworth, were they partly paying for the cost of the crane, and are they asking for part of the recouped cost when we sell the scrap metal?
Council, I'm going to go to Council Wonders for the answer on that.
So the answer is that Georgian Bluffs was solely responsible for accepting that material. It wasn't a decision of the BioGrid. It was a decision of Georgian Bluffs at the time. At the time, the proponent that put together a proposal was paying to store this equipment at a facility in Toronto, realized that it was costing him more than it was worth, offered it to say, listen, we've got a proposal in front of Georgian Bluffs and Chatsworth. Will you have the space that we can store it? At that time, the landfill building had come available. We didn't really understand the scope at which we were taking at that point in time, but the crane and all of the material handling was always paid for 100% by Georgian Bluffs. And that's why I'm glad to see this report say it's sole ownership of Georgian Bluffs, because that is a correct statement. But what happened at, 6 months after it arrived on site, it was determined that in order to refurbish this material, things had changed, technology had changed. There was no funds, no economic benefit to refurbish this material, and it was really scrap at that point in time. And it's good to see this finally come to fruition, that we can move it, free up our space, and get some revenue back out of this.
Thanks for that follow up there, Council Coburn.
Yeah, I don't recall it coming back to council to vote on, so perhaps that was before my time, but I find it very unfortunate that we would have approved essentially putting the cart before the horse and bringing in equipment and paying for that to be brought in, only to sit around unused because it was no longer useful technology. So maybe lessons learned for the future, I guess. Thank you.
Any further questions? I'm not seeing any further questions. I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? And that is carried. Thank you. All right, unfinished business, we are nil. New business, we are nil. Notice of motions. Anyone with the notice of motion? Councilor Winters.
Just, I don't want to call it notice of motion, but I think notice of discussion, a few things that I would like to be brought up on, and I'm hoping the rest of the council would as well. Really, the Cobble Beach water / sewer extension. I'd like to know where we're at on that. We can get a report back. And then the other thing that concerns me is, we're heading into the winter months, and I keep hearing we have vacancies in operations. Just looking for an update on filling operations and building vacant positions. I think that's important in municipality.
Thank you for that. Let's back to CEO.
To you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, I'm going to quickly glance at Carly, the clerk. Am I good to answer those just now? I can. Would that be okay with council? I can take it away and answer them another time, but I have the answers.
I'm going to say carry on.
Okay, so Cobble Beach, we continue to work. As soon as I have some way forward, I'd be delighted to bring that back to members of council. I suspect that will be a closed session response to start with in the first instance. So yes, I can bring that back, and we'll do so as soon as I have an update. I'm hoping I will have an update shortly. So working on it. The second question in regards to vacancies. So you will see we have an internal recruitment, which is about to start an internal recruitment process. In fact, that may have started today. If it doesn't start today, it will be starting this week. We will be likewise advertising this week to fill vacancies in the operations team before we get to winter season. So we should be under recruitment in the course of this week.
Follow up.
Did that include building as well? Just operations?
So through you, Deputy Mayor Pringle, I can answer that one as well. So myself and the chief building official over the next few weeks have to sit down and understand what the requirement is in our building department. At this point in time, we are managing comfortably within the prescribed time limits and definitions of the building code to handle the volume of work with less than 2 full-time positions. So we are in a process of trying to work out what the appropriate staffing level would be in that team.
Any further question, any further discussion or notice of motions? All right, we're going to move into closed session. So the recommendation reads, the council of the township of Georgian Bluffs moves into closed session at 5:54 p.m. in the council chambers with the acting CEO, Director of Community and Environmental Services, acting clerk remaining in the room to discuss. 12.1, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Open meeting exemption D of section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001. Review of ITFD board public member applications. In 12.2, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Open meeting exemption B of section 239-2 Municipal Act 2001. Private property matter. I need a mover and a seconder. Councilor Colburn, Councilor Shouldice. Discussion, any discussion? Call the vote. Closed session. Committee of the whole went into closed session under open meeting exemption B of section 239-2 of the Municipal Act 2001. As a result of closed session discussions, the following motion is being presented for consideration of council. 12.1, that council hereby appoints William Plagans as the citizen member of the Intertownship Joint Board of Management, and that staff be directed to present a bylaw at the October 4th, 2023 meeting of council to formalize said appointment for a 4-year period ending October of 2026. In 12.2, no action taken. Date of our next meeting is special council CAO recruitment, September 26th at 1.
Carly's trying to get a hold of you. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. Need a mover and a seconder for that. Okay, sorry. Oh, gotcha. I need a mover and a seconder for the appointment. I seen Councillor Colburn's hand go up. Okay, and Councillor Scholz. All the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. It's okay. I'm just reading what I got. No, all good. All right. Next council meeting. Special council CAO recruitment September 26th, 1 o'clock. And the council meeting October 4th at 5 p.m. If there is no further business, I will now call for adjournment of this meeting. I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Day, Councillor Winters, any discussion? Call the vote. All those in favor? That is carried. We are now adjourned. Thank you.